Hey, folks. Well, a couple of weekend wins. We got some solid goaltending. Have us feeling pretty good about ourselves in Leafland. KD, start dusting off the old parade route, maybe. More importantly, last night's Flyers game marks the halfway point of the season, so it's time to do midterm report cards, OZone style. We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. That's Katie. I'm the Devo. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Listen, I'm coming to you from Canada's only downtown, the OZone HQ. And we're going to break it all down for you. Coach, how is things going on down there in Texas? I think you got some horned frogs around you or something?
We do. Horned frogs. There it is. Yeah. Listen, fellas, I'm a long way from Philly down here in Texas, but the stench of that horrible Flyers club may have wafted down here last night. They're terrible.
Yeah, not so great. KD, what's the scene on the east side today?
Well, we're getting things ready for the parade route. I think it'll start here on the Danforth before it cuts down Yonge Street. So we're cleaning it up, getting it all ready to go.
Beautiful. All right, folks, before we get started, you know the drill. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, like, share the videos, do all that fun stuff. But, of course, leave a comment. We always look into it, and it helps us get better. Listen, we're halfway through the season already, folks. And what do you think? Is this team better than last year? It's a lot different, right? Totally different. Nope. Unbelievable. The underlying numbers here, we're splashing them right here. We're basically right on side. 59 points last year, 57 this year. Goals for, 3 off. Goals against, 2 off. Almost the exact same goal differential rate. It's pretty amazing. Save percentage, almost exactly the same. It feels different, but it's not in a lot of ways. Even though the records are almost identical, we're still going to give some grades through the clubs because I do think they're doing it maybe a little bit differently this year. So let's see how we're getting through at the halfway point. KD, we're going to start with you. Let's look at the top 6 forwards. What's your grades? Tell us what you think.
I'd say the top 6 as a group, I would say B+ for sure. If we start going through the individual players, we'll start to, I'll use a bit of expectations and salary in as well. So we'll cut through it. We'll start with the captain. I'd say Tavares is a B+. I think he's doing better than last year. He still has a really lofty salary, and he is your second line center. But, he's certainly better than last year. He's a positive. The line is doing fairly well. So I'll give him the B+. Marner, I got to give him an A. He has got a big salary, but he's certainly, I think, the best Leaf. If we're not looking at expectations or salaries, I think he's been fantastic this year. So I'll give him the A. Matthews, I'll give him a B+. Again, he's playing well. And if we didn't have last year's season, we were just going on this year's season. We'd probably be pushing around that A level, but we've seen him score lots of goals. We've seen him more dominant last year than he was this year. So I'm going to give him that B+. Also, he gets paid a lot of dough. The pleasant surprise is Nylander, though. Nylander's got to be an AA+. Like for what you're paying, for what our expectations were, his defensive play last year, and what he's doing this year, it's like he's a different guy. He might be in that argument for best player on the team. So I got to give him an A+. Another guy I've got to get an A to is Bunting. I mean, we pay him $900,000, and he's right in there. He's legitimate playing as a top 6 player. He's doing lots. He's in front of the net. He's getting his points. He's getting his assists. He's putting the puck in the back of the net. So I got to give him an A. I mean, he has played himself out of a contract for the Leafs next year, essentially. He's probably going to do a Mikheyev and get paid 4+ somewhere else. And then I guess Yardcroc, I'll give him a B plus. He hasn't been up the whole time. He seems to be doing okay. I just really don't think he fits as a top 6 legitimately, but he's certainly the last couple of weeks he's been doing his job. So we'll give him B plus, and we'll look at it that way. We'll see how.
Yeah,
it goes.
I mean, I think that's fair. I think when you compare to last year, 91 and 88 are definitely better. I think a lot of that has to do with how they were coached. I know we'll get to that later on in the program, but he swapped the lines around, and that takes some balls when you've got Matthews firing the way he has with his setup man, and to change those lines up. That takes some takes some steel nuts there,
Cojones?
and
Onions.
and yeah, he's so. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I think your assessment's reasonable. Look, when you pay those 4 guys what you pay them, you're going to have to get the Yarn Crocs and the and Bunting. You're going to have to have guys in there on the top 6, and I think they're both pretty good. I think Yarn Croc's one of the surprises of the season. Quite frankly, I didn't think him ever to come off the third line, and I think he'll produce up on that second line just fine. That's my take. Coach?
I wonder what clicked with Nylander, guys, because it's not like he's in his second or third year. Like he's been at it a bit, and he's been that kind of consistent guy, flashes of brilliance.
Yeah.
And now, like, he seems to have put it together. We're not even complaining about him defensively, which is, I never thought I'd say that.
Well,
So now maybe playing with Matthews helps.
I think
Matthews certainly is a better defender than Tavares is, but
Well, I think Scotty, Coach, I think he can play faster, right? I mean, I think Nylander's always, wanted to play faster off the rush and get the puck going, and I think Matthews wants to too. So I think that's really helped on the scoring side. I think they just pushed tempo better than he was able to with Tavares.
yeah, I'd say
that's fair.
if we had graded Tavares 2-3 weeks ago, it probably wasn't as high, but he's been hot lately. So I think you got to look at the body of work being half a year, which I think you got him slotted pretty good. Look, Matthews is way off of last year, and yet the top 6 in general has scored more.
Yeah.
So that's perfectly fine by us. Yeah, I like the individual accolades. Wouldn't mind a motivated guy there, right? And, he'd be pissed hearing from KD, the esteemed KD, that he's not even in the mix for best player in the Leafs. That'll motivate him, Kev.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, but I've been calling for that line change for a long time, and I think I actually think it's paid off. So the proof might be in the pudding there.
Hey,
all right, let's.
Coach, can you send your brother and his dog down to Arizona? Maybe that can get things going.
He goes, yeah. I don't know. Do we have budget for that, fellas? You saw the sweet graphics we put up earlier.
All right, I'm gonna take a stab at the bottom 6.
Yeah.
This isn't quite as flashy as the top 6. This team is gonna live or die in a lot based on that top 6. But what's very interesting, we showed you a stat early on about how similar this team is with respect to outcome to last year, when really the top 6 were carrying the team. The third lineup was there to take some difficult face-offs, and then the fourth line was hidden quite a lot. I mean, you had Simmons and Spezza logging the majority of the minutes down there. So what I'm going to talk about on the bottom 6 is that they're fast. They're fast. They dog the puck. And they can keep up. It's relentless now. The Leafs will roll 4 lines at you, and all 4 lines are going to be quick. They're going to be all over you. When they don't have the puck, they're chasing you. When they have the puck, they're skating away from you. We couldn't necessarily say that at any time in the last really few years. The fourth line has always been kind of a little bit slower, a little bit of a different makeup. I think that's the big difference there. If I'm comparing year over year, I got to give it a B+. I think the biggest surprise to date on the team, except for maybe the performance of the goaltending, I don't want to get out over my skis on that, is Holmberg. He, for a guy that was drafted, later in a draft where there was lots of touted prospects, he wasn't really supposed to be given his shot probably for a while. He's come in. He's the fourth line center. I can't see that changing unless there's an injury. He's earned it. And not only that, what were those guys playing? Simmons and Spezza last year at this time, like 6 minutes a game, 4 minutes a game. There were some nights where it was like they were barely even out. You know, he's putting in great showing there. That fourth line, I think, came out and had 10 minutes the other night. That's what you want. It balances out the lineup, and it just means that top six is going to have that much more energy coming at you. I'm not going to break up the individual players because there's a lot of pieces that move in and out of the bottom six, but generally speaking, I think that's the theme. Kerfoot and Engvall have been meh, but overall, I think the surprises there with Holmberg and the fact that you can elevate the fourth line's minutes because they're able to play with speed and pace and mimic the overall style that Keefe wants to bring. He wants to possess the puck, and when they don't have the puck, they want to chase it down, and they can do that with that fourth line.
Hey, so I'll tell you, I see Holmberg. You know, I like him because his name is Pontus, but he is very much like Kampf, isn't he? He's always on the right side of the puck. And remember what a revelation it was to get David Kampf last year. We have a guy we plugged in there, and he can play in every situation. Not going to score much. Don't care. Yeah. The other, our first center is getting 60, so that guy doesn't have to score. He just doesn't need to be scored on, right? Holmberg's in the same mold. I think that's great. I'll give you one other data point here to support your good grade, Devo. So being down here in the U.S., I don't always get the home feed for games. Oftentimes I'll get the away feed. And a lot of these teams, they got to fill 15 minutes in the intermission just like everybody else. When they talk about the Leafs, they talk about that. They roll four lines deep, and they're really fast and good in transition. Yeah. And the clips they show aren't always of Nylander and Marner and Matthews. They oftentimes it's Kerfoot. He's quick, and Engvall is quick too. I think they're surprised. Because you hear about Toronto from the outside, you focus on the stars, right?
Sure.
But it's pretty deep. Aston Reese can move. Holmberg can move. Like it's been pretty good. I think they don't score as much, but I'm much more comfortable with the bottom six this year.
Yeah,
I think so.
I would agree. I would agree. I think
they're all a plus too. I think more or less.
Yeah. I think the fourth line certainly is a little better this year, doing better, plays more minutes, and maybe the third line is not quite as productive as last year. But we had major injuries by the end of last year in the third line, so hopefully things stay the way they are. And he's always going to tinker. You're just going to tinker the bottom six until you got something that works.
Until you find something, yeah. And let's remember the very beginning of the season, like the last three seasons, we start a little bit slow, right? I remember what were we saying to each other? Why can't Kampf win a draw? What's wrong? Kampf was off, and the team sagged. But when the bottom six, you didn't have to hide them, and they could do what they needed to do, tilt the ice. Everything works off that, everything they want to do is built off the fact that they want to be skating away from their opponent, and they want to be chasing them down and taking the puck back. I mean, that's
Devo. You had Kerfoot as or I believe you said meh. But I like him being meh on the third line.
Yes.
Versus being in the top six.
100%.
Right? I think he's dragging them down. Now, that's putting aside for the fact that he makes 3.5, which is too much in our structure for a third line guy. But, on that line, that's a luxury there. You don't get guys making 3.5 that are quick, that are smart like he is, right, on the third line very often.
Well, let's face it, he makes half the salary of all the bottom six potential guys.
Yeah,
so they're not exactly breaking the bank for those guys. So they're clearly getting upside. They're clearly getting value. You can get 10 minutes a night out of a third line center who's taken in the sixth round like Holmberg. You're crushing it. Like that's
it's found money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the back end, guys. I think this is where things can actually get a little bit interesting. We've had a bit of an interesting year, just in so much as that we've had some big injuries to some big guys. So we've been forced to see guys play out of their comfort zone a little bit. So, Coach, I'm going to hand this one over to you. Let's see what your grades are for the back end guys, the defense.
Yeah, so look, we got our graphics department worked overtime on this graphic here. This is pretty much everything but the eye test. Got some advanced stats in here like Fenwick and Corsi, time on ice, points per game, games played because we have had a lot of injuries. So I won't go through all that, but I'd say the green is a leader on the team, and the pink or red is lagging, right, in the category. So T.J. Brody is our best defenseman, not just because of what he brings, but also because the guy beside him always plays his best hockey. So I gave him a B plus. I think Gio hasn't been quite as good, but he's been really good, and he's only making $800,000, guys, league minimum. So. And when all those injuries were there, he stepped up and he was terrific. His stats like Fenwick, which is, shots and misses, and Corsi, which is shots, misses, and blocks, well over 50%. So no matter who, and he tends to play with guys like Timmins or guys like Hall, right? So, and he's more in a defensive role. So for him to get, the bulk or really good numbers as it pertains to possession is impressive to me.
Yeah, very good. Solid numbers.
Liljegren doesn't have as good of numbers, but he's made a huge stride. He's, I believe, separated himself from Sandin, who's his obvious comparable, around the same age, around the same amount of experience. And really, guys, it boils for me down to something that's not in these numbers. It's the eye test. He makes less bonehead plays than he used to before. He's keeping it really simple. We don't need that guy to score. What we need him to not do is turn it over. And he's doing a great job of that. And I think the jury's still out on his minutes with Riley. I don't think it's been great since Riley came back. And if we could ever get that pair there, then now you can play Connor Timmins more. But so the jury's a little out on that. But right now, I think it's safest to have Riley with Brody. So the domino effect there is Timmins is probably your seventh guy. Anyway, Riley's been okay. He was a point a game guy or close to it when he got hurt. He has not been great since he got back, but we'll give him a pass. His new deal kicked in. He's at 7.5. We can't give him a pass for too much longer.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back to Connor Timmins in a second. His numbers are off the charts, but it's a really small sample size, right? And they stick out even more when you compare to Justin Hall. There's a recent article we texted about all the time, a lot, about Hall playing so many minutes, and he really gives you tough defensive minutes. He is the best penalty killer on the team. If it's not him, it's Brody. So he does a great job there. Mm-hmm. Up a goal, he's out there at the end. But, man, these 5-on-5 stats are not flattering for him. So you need a guy to eat defensive minutes, and he's been good at that. But 5-on-5, I mean, really everybody else is better. Even Sandin, who I think struggles in his own end, but his underlying numbers are good too. So I got Hall and Sandin as a C for different purposes. I think we all would like to see Connor Timmins more just to see if this is real or if this is, 12 games of something that's not sustainable. I'm not sure. But, overall, I think you got to give the defensive core a really solid B, given how they played through all these injuries and stuff. That doesn't mean that we don't upgrade. We could use a minute-munching guy who can play in all situations still. So let's see what the trade deadline brings, but this is what I have.
I think that's fair. I can't really pick too many holes of it. If I were to look at anything, I'd probably look at the extremes in the margin. I'd probably go, look, you've got Riley at a B-, which is probably good, but I might have even scored him lower, only because he's paid to be an offensive defenseman, and he's got he's got less goals than Hull by a considerable margin. He's a +1. Hull is paid to be a defensive player. Every defensive zone face-off pretty much this year practically he's been out there for. He's a +10. He's got 2 goals. So there are some other stats you could probably sit there and take a look at Hull. I agree with really, I mean, you've got Hull at a C and you've got Sandin at a C. I agree with Sandin probably being the weakest of the lot. he hasn't taken a step this year. I don't think. I know he came off an injury. He's had a few pretty decent games, but as you say, Coach, he does a few things aggressively, and when he does, it seems like it's a real roll of the dice out there. He takes bad pinches, I find, and you can see the horror in the forward's face. Like, we're not doing that now. And
he's got to figure it out, like Liljegren figured it out, and he's undersized, but he's more skilled. He'll be just fine.
And he actually throws his weight around statistically more than you would think for a sort of a slight European player. That's all I got on your rating, Katie.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, Coach has a good take on a good feel for the D. I mean, the one thing I will point out, going forward, we're also talking about the regular season. We yell and scream when the playoffs come around and the types of players that we need. And on this, I think you see Hall's numbers bad, 5-on-5, but he's actually playing playoff hockey now. A lot of these guys aren't. And when the forwards on the other team start playing playoff hockey, we need more guys to play and do what Hall's good at. And I think, when we start to add or look to subtract or add a name, we've lost Muzzin probably for this season. And he's a more meaner, rugged version of what Hall does. So we need more of that. It's great that we get the skilled. I'm 100% sure I understand Timmins in his own end. Certainly savvy with the puck. So that's the only thing I'd caution, that we love our scoring. We love this Corsies that are high 5-on-5 in the regular season, and then the playoff hockey comes around and we lost first round again. I don't know why. We know why. So I want those bigger stalwarts who can handle the pressure better.
All the more important, we got to either get Muzzin back or probably more realistically replace that guy. So like you're saying, Justin Hall's playing playoff hockey now. So in other words, he's already 6'4", 215.
Yeah,
he's already that. We don't need him to grow into that in April.
Just on that Timmins note, Katie, you and I were at the game just before Christmas. You'll know we actually made a point of sort of watching him play, and what doesn't show up in some of these advanced stats that you fired up there, Coach. He made some plays where he did not make the simple play. Bad ideas of forcing the puck up around the boards rather than reversing the puck. And they didn't end up in the back. One goal ended up in the back of the net. I don't know if it was totally his mistake, but one of them did. But there was 4 or 5 mistakes that was just sort of like, it's not showing up yet, but that's not good enough.
So we'll see. That's fair. Now, and
he's also only played 50 games, right?
That's right.
He needs more minutes. Like that's to be fair, he needs more.
100%.
Right. So he's not like Riley yet, where Riley can take chances because he's got upside, proven upside, and guys like that, like Marner, you take turnovers because you need to take risks to be creative, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He's not there yet. So, and you certainly can't play like that in the playoffs. You're absolutely right about that.
Right.
All right, let's go around. Let's go around the horn on this one. Let's rate the goaltending. Coach, we'll start with you.
So I have the goaltending as I had it as an A- until the recent troubles here of 10, 12 games. It's coming back now. Last 2 games, that's good. I got it as a B. And I'm not going to get into the minutia of, like, they're both playing pretty much exactly the same. Mm-hmm. One guy's making 1.8, the other guy's making more. I'm not too worried about that. I mean, just get some saves, make some saves, and get some wins. It's been better than I thought. It's been pretty solid overall.
100%. KD?
Yeah, I mean, I think just based on expectations and salaries, I was with Samsonov as a B+ and Murray as a B. That said, Game 7 or a shootout or something like that, Murray's a bigger guy. It seems like when he's on, he might offer more. But
That's
I've been really pleased with Samsonov. Like he was really down and out. Like if this experiment in Toronto doesn't work, he's going to have a tough time getting a job at the NHL. So I think he's been motivated and he's been playing pretty good. Everyone goes through some bad spots, but I think he's done what he needs to do to stick in this league, which is good for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think you both said it. They've certainly been better than expected. That's the most important thing. They both seem to shake off bad games too. Maybe it took a few, but they of late. But both of them seem to be able to do that, which I think is really important. A short memory for these goalies. And like what we haven't had in Toronto in a very long time is a goaltender of stealing a playoff series. Now, is either of these guys one of those? I don't know. We know Murray's done it before, so it's all going to be about the postseason. That's. What
I feel better about Murray stealing a series if the other team's not allowed to shoot to his glove side.
All right, folks. Let's take a look at the coaching staff. We'll start with you, Katie. What do you think?
I mean, I really would give them a B plus here. You know, they took on, but could have been disastrous injuries. They changed the styles, and actually the players listened to it. You know, I think we've seen before where this group has turned coaches, turned their ear off, and you know they've been listening. Special teams hasn't been quite as crisp as last year, but certainly they seem to really adjust and play really well in a worst case scenario. You had goalies down, you had virtually all your top three down, and you were still winning games, every game virtually. And you got to give thumbs up. Got to give thumbs up for the coaches there. So I'll give them B plus just on that run.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. What do you think?
Well, I got a mea culpa here. I had him fired on Halloween, right, Keith? So I was calling for it. Our subscribers know that. So, yes, remarkable November given all that adversity and a really strong December too. You know, third in the league. Not much to complain about. But I'm going to give it an incomplete. You know why.
Yeah.
We got to win a round. Not just our players, not just for us. But that coaching staff has never won a round. Got to win a round.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the process. If we're going to rank it just on the first half of the season, I'm going to give them an A, and I'll tell you why. The team is playing stingy all four lines. Every player. They're winning in different ways. They're winning with Hollowell and Victor Mete on the ice. They are resurrecting goaltending careers. He's got them all buying in, and I think it's great. So I'm going to give him an A. I don't think there's any reason not to. And listen, at the end of the day, sort of similar to what Coach said, it's the East. Boston, Tampa. Here we go again, right? We're gonna have to beat both those teams just to get there. So
let's start with Tampa. Can we please just win a round? Please.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. You're all caught up on the first half. Of course, you were already caught up. You watch us all the time. Anyways, the OZone is going to double down on our content in the second half. We hope you'll be there. Listen, we're really going to double down on Wednesday night because all three of us are going to be there. Wednesday night versus Nashville. If you're going to the game, drop us a line. We'll meet you for a drink. Drinks on Coach. He's going to buy you one. We'll get a pick. Get you on the next pod. Can't wait for it. We got you covered right here on the OZone.
What?